Did Retevis redeem themselves with the latest firmware for the HA2? Stick around and we'll get right to it. Hey, welcome back guys, Jason, KM4ACK. When the Retevis, Alluance, whichever, HA2 first hit the market, I was pretty hard on this radio because it advertised itself as an APRS radio and there were several things left out of it. Well, we've got the latest firmware and some of the things have been fixed, some remain, and we've got a huge improvement. Now, first up, they fixed the transmit issue with the HA2. So in that first video, you would set it to transmit on 144.390 in the menu system, and it just wouldn't do that. It was quite a ways off from where you were setting it. That has now been resolved, and when you tell it to transmit at 144.390, it actually does that. Going to APRS though, there are still several features missing in this. If all you want to do is beacon your location, well, this radio will definitely do that. However, they don't have APRS messaging and a few other features built into it. And there's some just general things I don't like about the usability of this radio. However, and this is a big one, with this latest firmware upgrade, they've now given us access to the TNC over Bluetooth, and that is a game changer for this radio. Now, I'm not going to go through updating the firmware and installing everything on this radio. TO did a fantastic job of upgrading the firmware in a recent video. I'm going to leave a link to that down in the description below. I want to show you a gotcha, though, that I ran into with APRSdroid after connecting it to the HA2. For the demonstration here, I'll be using the Kenwood D75, and then I'll be using the HA2 connected to the Android phone running APRSdroid. Now, just to keep things a little bit simpler to figure out which is which, I've got my club call sign loaded on the D75, so you'll see that show up as K4Fun, and this radio over here is going to show up as my call sign, KM4ACK-7. So make it a little bit easier to see things for what they are, which way they're coming in. All right, so the first thing we want to take a look at is I'm going to beacon with APRSdroid, and you will see that information show up right there on the front screen of the Kenwood D75. Now we're going to reverse that process. We're going to beacon with the D75, and let's see if it shows up in APRSdroid. So we'll go ahead and send that beacon out, and we're not seeing that in APRSdroid. And this had me confused for a little bit, but I found the fix for it. All you need to do is you need to go into the menu on the radio, go to APRS, go to the APRS switch, and turn that APRS section on in this radio itself. Now, let's go ahead and do that again with the D75. Let's send that beacon. And there it goes, and you will see that that showed up in APRSdroid. Now, I'll give you some speculation here in a minute as to why I think that's happening. However, in addition to connecting it to the phone, I also connected this radio over Bluetooth to my Linux laptop and then fired up Yak, and I'm happy to report that that worked extremely well. So if you want to connect it to your phone or you want to connect it to Linux and run Yak, that gives you a full-blown APRS experience without having to rely on the front of the radio, which honestly makes it a whole lot easier to type as well. Now, here's where things went off the rails for me though. I also tried connecting the radio to Wode and sending a Windlink message, and it absolutely failed. It would transmit, but it could not hear anything coming back. I reached out to my contact at Retevis, and they assure me that they are aware of this and are working on a fix. Now, I'm going to go into pure speculation mode here as to what I think might be happening with this radio and why it can't decode Windlink at this particular time. Keep in mind, I'm not a hardware guy, and if I'm way off base, feel free to correct me down in the comments below. My understanding, though, of a KISS TNC is that it takes the audio tones and converts that to bits. Those bits are then passed to the software which does the decoding. I don't think that that is happening on this particular radio, and what leads me to believe that is we need that APRS section of the radio turned on in order for us to get decoded packets in APRSdroid or Yak. I think they're doing some sort of decoding of the bits on the radio and then passing that data to the software. I might be completely wrong on that, but that's just a hunch that I've got because I'd never have to turn on APRS with any other radio that's got a Bluetooth TNC. So the D75, all you got to do is put it into KISS TNC mode and then connect it, and you don't have to have it in APRS mode. So that's why I think there might be something that they're doing a little bit odd on this radio, and I suspect they'll get that fixed in the next firmware revision. So this radio coming in at less than $100 and now giving us a Bluetooth TNC, well, at least for APRS right now, this becomes a much better radio in my opinion. Honestly, I don't even care if these guys are doing APRS on the radio itself, if they can just give us access to that TNC over Bluetooth and allow us to do both APRS and Windlink. At that point, do we really need APRS on the radio? I'd rather offload it a lot of times to my phone because it's much easier to compose a message, an APRS message on my phone than it is to try to do it on the front of this radio or even a radio like this. So if you're just thinking about dipping your toes into APRS, this might not be a bad option. No, we don't get all of the APRS features right on the front of the radio, but because it allows it to pair it to the phone, I think that is a pretty good option for less than $100. If you found today's information helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up before you head off. We will see you guys on the next one. Until then, 7-3.